Hello, this is Brian Foster on Kardec Radio, presenting the program Spiritism and the Spirit World Around Us. Hello, and a wonderful night, afternoon, morning to whoever throughout the world. Remember, we are here, we are on this program in Kardec Radio, Spiritism, the Spirit World Around Us, and tonight we are talking about a future again. This is episode 2, the future. And episode 1, we talked about how it was implemented. Now we're going to talk about how the spirit world implements, how the orders come down and then implements the word of God. So I've been telling you, this is all about the future. I haven't really got into the specific future events that may happen. I'm telling you, these are broad, but I think it's important for everybody to understand what that means. How does the spirit world create our future? It's not just like all of a sudden something in the mind and then it happens, although thought is action in the spirit world. No, there's an army, there's legions of spirits undertaking, doing, implementing the word of God and the word of higher spirits and downward, just like a regular organization in our earth. So first, it's August the 12th. This is Spiritism and the Spirit World Around Us, episode 2, the future, how it is wrought, right? And first I want to say is, please tell all your friends to sign up to join Kardec Radio Facebook page. You can see these streamings. We are here on 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern time, all time zones in between. Please share up. There's Liza. Hello. Please share our video for people so they can understand and look at Spiritism. Plus, you can go to all these Spiritist Facebook streams I put on the YouTube channel. I also have on BitChute, and so you can look at these later. Please go to my YouTube channel. You go to my blog, nwspiritism.com, and you can click on my YouTube channel, and then you can sign up for that. And please also share this video with other Facebook pages. Oh, those Matthew, hello. Share this page with other people, and then share it. Go to my YouTube channel and share that, and share those videos. There's lots of videos. I put all these things down, and I also have shorter videos on Spiritism Explored and Explained. So, again, why are we here? Well, I'm sure everybody here watching live knows it's because of Allan Kardec, the Spirits book. This is why we're here. This, to me, I never get tired of saying it or telling other people. I try not to bore other people, but that was a revelation. To me, that book had answered questions I'd had since I was a teenager. Started thinking about things other than the latest candy bar I wanted to buy. This book answered so many questions. It answers why the earth it is, why we go through what we do, why good things happen to bad people and bad things happen to good people, and everything in between and around that. Spiritism explains so much. And I'm bringing this to you because I want you too to know about Spiritism, because once you understand about the spirit world and the processes in our place in it, everything is understandable. Every little thing that happens to you, your friends, it helps shape your attitude and your character. And you go, okay, I understand. This makes sense now. It's a revelation. There's nothing I can say. And the Spiritists call this the third revelation, right? The first revelation was Moses, the 10 Commandments. The second was Jesus. And then this is the third, because Spiritism came as promised by Jesus as the consoler, the spirit of truth that would come to the earth. And Allan Kardec, what is called the codifier of Spiritism. The other thing before I start on the future, is Allan Kardec. The other book I recommend everyone get is The Gospel According to Spiritism. I don't know about you. I'm sure other people are much smarter than I am, but when I read the Bible and all the parables, I didn't quite really parse everything that was there. This gives you so much insight. Okay, one more book. This is what we're talking about. Everything I'm talking about is in this book, How We Are Guided by Spirits. How did I create this book? This is all what I did is I took messages given to the Reverend G. Vaughan in the early 1900s, and I categorized them. And then I looked at the messages he received, and then juxtaposed them to other messages in other writings. We have Chico Xavier, Allan Kardec, Leon Denis, Yvonne Pierre, all great spiritist mediums and authors that just told us so much. And what's special about the Reverend G. Val Owen is the information he gave. It does prove, right, like things like that Chico wrote and in his Andre Louis series of books, but it also complements and it added to it. It really kind of gave us a higher looking point of view in the processes of the spirit realm, which of course is the universe we all came from and we shall return to. That is where we will live our immortal lives. Our life on earth is a small episode designed for what, right? It's a campus. We are on the school of earth. Why are we here? We're here to improve our character and our attitude. We're here. This is why we're here. This explains everything. Now, let's get into the topic tonight. How the spirit realm implements the word of God. Now, so we think of God in heaven as a place where our Supreme Lord has everything ordered, right? Perfectly ordered. A machine with gears and cogs that run for infinity without any required maintenance. A utopia where there's no need for improvement. On the contrary, according to Spiritism, Earth is an imperfect representation of heaven. From this, we understand that there are organizations, learning centers, work, architecture, all of the required components that we need on Earth to run a large city or a nation, which also plays a role in heaven. So therefore, really, even in the spirit world, nothing is static. Like a time-lapse video of a busy city center, the higher celestial spheres are constantly in motion. Think about this for a second. Think about how this alters the norm of what people think in heaven. People think heaven is you go to a place, and all different religions and doctrines. Spiritism is a doctrine. You go to this place, and it is the place, right? It doesn't change. You don't change. You are there. You're there. You live in this wonderful paradise of Elysian fields. Spiritism says, nope, sorry, it doesn't work that way. And this is what's so interesting about it. So this constant motion, this constant improvement, this constant changing, it has to be orchestrated by a sophisticated organization. A command and control structure is a requirement in order to accomplish the directives of management. Well, now, when I say directives of management, that means our future. Where does the spirit world want the earth and the population on earth to go? What is the goal? What are we being taught, right? How is the earth changing in order for us to learn what we need to learn? Everything's interrelated. And this directive of management, in other terms, I could also say the word of God. Now, in my books, I've written about the organization of certain sections of the higher planes, but I have not detected a good explanation in the books I've read of the process of decisions being turned into actions through multiple layers of management in the spirit world. The nuts and bolts of the structure to lay out general guidelines and the method of control of an army of spirits to act upon a set of orders has until now been a mystery, at least to me. And there are many gems of knowledge exposed in the book Beyond the Veil. Of course, that is a series of books that's what I've written into this, and categorized and explained everything that was sent to the Reverend Jubel. Well, not everything, I shouldn't say that. So in one section where the spirit Zabdial, and of course, there was many high spirits that come, and Zabdial, Arnel are two of the ones, to come and talk to the Reverend Shiva. And it just, the information they give him is just revelatory. It's just so information. It's just interesting. So Zabdial is talked to him and expounded on the theme of unity and diversity. And he succinctly lays out the process whereby orders from above flow down the chain of command and presents the width of freedom to interpret general directions. Additionally, he notifies us of the rules of engagement when the actions of one group overlaps another. Isn't that interesting? So there's orders coming down. It's not just God saying, no, make this planet. No, he gives an order. I want you to make this planet. Then it filters down all through the lines of command. So when Zabdial discusses a soul's power, whether in a spirit or a physical body, he states that the person's attunement to divine will enables an individual enhanced capabilities to accomplish great deeds. Hence, to be an effective member of the spirit hierarchy, a spirit must be aligned with the spiritual direction of his or her spiritual superiors. He illustrates this point with the following. I'm going to quote here. For instance, there are here such as have charge of the elements which condition the earth, and those things which grow upon the earth. Let us take one example which serve to illustrate the others. Those who have charge of vegetation. These are under one mighty prince and are divided and subdivided into departments, all in perfect order. Under these, again, are others of lower estate who carry out their work under direction and in conformity to certain unalterable laws laid down in higher spheres. So in the paragraph above, we're not really told anything new if you really looked and researched Spiritist literature. There are numerous examples of the structure of directors of certain functions in their support organization. So on a very small level, if you had read lately in the book No Solar by Psychograph by Chico Xavier, talks about Andre Luis, and in the end of the book, he went to a place where actually it was in the Messengers. He went to a place where he was in nature, and he talked about, and then they saw these spirits who were taking charge of animals and plants and so forth. And it shows you, this is what the power of Jivaon is. It's showing you the very top level of how these spirits are looking at the earth, looking at the vegetation, as Zabdal said, how they are directed, right? They're just not there and they just go willy-nilly. No, there's order. There's order above. And therefore, and then another example is the Spirit Manual in the book On the Way to the Light, reveals that Christ was a member of the community of pure spirits who directed the establishment of our entire solar system. Everything's created. Therefore, we on earth, incarnates and discarnates alike, are led by Christ. The earth was created under his direction. The billions of years of evolution it took to form mankind in a vessel for spirits to inhabit and who need to learn by multiple trials, and the building and destiny of nations and whole societies have all been decreed and led by Jesus. This is an enormous fact. Christ wasn't this wonderful person who came and lived for 30 plus few years and told us so many wonderful things. Jesus is so much more. This is what Spiritism really exposes, that Jesus is so much more than we thought. And it's not just Jesus past time, it's Jesus now. Jesus is guiding the earth at this moment, at this precise moment. And it's telling the people that work for Jesus, okay, this is what we want to do. And Jesus is not only in charge of this planet, but some other planets too. So given all this, let's go back to how orders are processed, how they're brought down. How did Jesus give commands and have them followed in order to produce the flora and fauna we live with today? So Zabdal, this is what's so great, Jivaon again, he supplies the details to an example of the group of spirits which guide the evolution of plant life on Earth. Now I'm going to quote again. It would seem then that the one rule they must observe in their work is that having planned out any scheme of development for a family of plants, that scheme must be pursued in its main elements and essentials to its natural consummation. All their armies of subordinates are kept within the limits of that unalterable law of evolution. If an oak family is planned, then an oak family that must remain. It may evolve into subdivisions, but these must be subdivisions of the oak. It must not be allowed to branch off into the fern family or seaweed. These will also be developed along their own lines. Now, what does that tell us? So from what he's told us above, we see that the path is planned. There are definite guide rails in place to keep the workers moving forward. The main objective must be held in sight and no wild tangents are permitted. While the road is set, the exact lane within both curves is up to the spirits toiling toward the goal mandated by the higher powers. So in essence, first, if you ever look at plant life or you see these evolution of plants or the evolution of animals and you see this like tree and how this goes there, well, we're just discovering what the spirit world has planned all along. And really that's what science is, right? We're discovering what our earth is like, how it works. Now, what we should know that this didn't happen happenstance. It happened for a plan. And Darwin was right. There's also evolutionary rules, right? And evolution changes things. But it's part evolution, environment, and it also it shows that it's guided by the invisible hand. Yes, and then Elijah said that the book No Solar demonstrates the love of God and Jesus, and of the discarnated spirits, how we are loved and we're helped all the time, and we can't forget that because we are just surrounded. It's go off on a quick tangent there. That just if you want to look at what Spiritism tells us in essence, is you have to look at us here on Earth. It's like if you look at like kindergartners, right? A kindergartner is a child in school or nursery school or whatever, and they're doing things, and they don't even consciously know that the teacher is surrounding them, kind of guiding them what to do. And a lot of times when they play games and stuff, they don't even know they're learning. Well, think of that as us. And this is what we're doing here, and what the Reverend G. Owen is telling us, is he's telling us how we're being led and how we are learning lessons. And we think we just think this is natural. We think we are creating, this is what we want to do. No. It's our space of freedom is much less than people think it is. Random events. Some spiritists think there's no such thing as a random event. I think there's probably some things that are unexpected, even to the spirit world. I could be wrong, but our ability to set our own future is much more limited than one thinks. Now, let me get back. So let's get back in. Now, Zabdal's great because he discloses, okay, now he just said everyone's mandated to go within their lane, right? And there's different teams that are all set to do things. Next, Zabdal discloses what happens if two teams work at cross purposes, right? Because you may have a oak tree, but then you've got this other plant that may kill the oak tree, right? So this is what he says. I'm going to quote. Another law is that no department of spiritual workers shall be able to negate the operations of another. They may not and often do not work in conformity, but their operations must be along the lines of modifications rather than absolute negation, which would mean destruction. Thus, we find that the seeds of two plants of the same family be mixed. The result will be a mule plant or a blend or a modification. But the seed of one family being mixed with that of another is without effect, and in neither case is effect annihilation. A parasite might entwine itself around a tree, but then ensues a fight. In the end, the tree is usually worsted and pays the penalty of defeat, but it is not suddenly laid low. That fight proceeds, and indeed, sometimes the tree wins. But it is recognized here that those who invented and carried out the parasitic idea have in the main won the battle of the forces. So what is he telling us? Again, haven't we seen this in successful companies, right? The supreme intelligence have set up a system of positive conflict between teams, whereby different groups could be in competition with one another. On the other hand, they both serve to improve the quality of the products they created. No group is allowed to utterly destroy what the other developed. If a defect is found, then the time is granted to modify the effective creation to strengthen it. Darwin was right about the theory of evolution. What he didn't know that there are spirit teams subtly influencing modifications to DNA to achieve the desired result. It even happens in us humans too. When a person is born, it's not just it's a combination of heredity, and then also for some people, not all, spirit world will actually modify DNA. One example is, let's say a person's supposed to be a physician, a surgeon. That person will be given better coordination, more calmness in the hands for that person to eventually grow up and become a surgeon. So they don't do that because they think, it might be a 4% chance that he's going to be a doctor. No. They kind of know. That's what I'm telling you. Your destiny is pre-planned for the most part. So each group has a plan, and sometimes they work in concert, and in other periods they are in competition. No matter what, their work always follows divine will. Now, we know capitalism, right? Capitalism is a natural order because it creates diversity. It's competition. Capitalism is competition. Some people win, some people lose in that goal, but it's always you become stronger. That's why capitalism is a very resilient path, right? That's why socialism fails. The spirit world has told us, and even in Emmanuel's On the Way to the Light, that is not communism, socialism, this government ownership of means of production and capital is not supposed to be. It's not going to work. We humans are not wonderful enough to let that really to decide what can be built or what not be built. It has to be a creation. It has to be in competition. It has to grow organically. That's again, those are lessons we have to learn. So, what do you see in a lot of successful companies? Disparate teams working for an overall goal, but with the freedom of action to advance to their target, while in a friendly rivalry with others, create a myriad of ways to reach a common destination. The genius of the supreme intelligence has created a machine to never fail to reach whatever is desired and to arrive at the goal via the optimally efficient and beautiful path. And that's important to learn. If Jesus wants us to this planet of atonement, why we're here, right, where we have to learn through trials and tribulations to become a planet of regeneration, where that hate and envy, wars, all that is greatly reduced and eventually disappears. If Jesus in the spirit world wants us to achieve that, we will. Now, the timing is somewhat up to us. The timing is how much we learn in each life as a collective humanity. Zabda explains how the unity of purpose, orders from on high, facilitate diversity in execution and results. This is what he says. And now I must tell you something which I've hinted already, and which you may find difficult of acceptance. All these main principles, even when diverse in action, are planned in spheres higher than my own by high and powerful princes, who hold their commission secure under others still, who hold theirs from others above them. I use the word diverse in preference to antagonistic. For those high ones, antagonism does not find a place, but the diversity of quality and wisdom does. And it is the cause of this wonderful diversity in nature as it works out in its procession from those higher realms outward through the lower spheres into what is visible to you on earth. That's amazing. So it's really just opening the whole process. We, in our current time on earth, believe wholly in science without spirituality. Science is correct. There are natural laws. There are mathematical models of how the universe operates. And yes, there's evolution. Yet behind it, all of it is a foundation of divine laws upon what we see, hear, and touch is based upon. While species compete and fight with each other, there are spiritual teams that sit above, determining when a branch of a family tree should be allowed to fall or to impose a slight transformation to carry on the experiment. The spirituality, God, the supreme intelligence, whatever you want to call it, guides the earth, and we are here for a purpose. We are part of a larger plan. We live on a planet made for us so we can acquire the wisdom we so sorely need. There are spirit teams who plan our lives and evolution, just like teams which plan the arc of all vegetation on earth. The central lesson for attempting to read between the lines for any prophecy of the future, this is why I'm giving you all this base, all this foundation, is that our transit from present to beyond is always dynamic. There's people working this. While the target can remain the same, right? This is the target, right? The path is influenced by multiple factors and by many departments in heaven. And as such, we must be ready for events to not unfold as first presented, but to come in mysterious ways. Through it all, we need to retain our faith, and the journey will end up at the selected location. Now, analyze what Zabdal communicates about our globe. This is what he says. And yet, when you consider the stars of different size and complement, and the waters of the sea, naturally still, but by the motion of the earth and the gravitation of bodies at a distance, allowed to have no rest, and then the more rarefied atmosphere, which also responding to the pulls and pushes of the forces which impinge upon the earth, whips into motion the heavier liquid, and all the diversity of form and the color of grass and plant and tree and flowers and insect life, and life more evolved, the birds and animals, and of the continuous movement along them all, and in the way in which they permitted one to prey upon another, and yet not to annihilate wholly, but every species must run its race before it passes away. All this and more, then you will not, my warden friend, he's talking to Chival, confess that God is indeed the most wonderful in the manner of his working, and that the wonder justifies the most fully the measures he has permitted his higher servants to adopt and use, and the manner also of their using. Hence, the spirit world works according to the set of rules laid down by God. While we think that he works in incomprehensible ways, he really doesn't. He works in ways which allow us free will, and all his servants, right? All, even in the high spirit world, you're given free will, but not perfect freedom to perform dangerous acts of destruction on a cosmic level, but on a level suited to maintain our interest in self-satisfaction, on a level which entices us to want more and more responsibility, to plant the seed within each person, the desire to complete our training on earth and other worlds and on multiple levels of heaven, so we may take part in the excitement of creation. This is what is really awaiting us. What does Spiritism tell us? Spiritism tells us in the Spirit's book, what's our goal? Our goal is to become a perfect spirit. That means someone who is full loving, charitable, fraternal, doesn't think bad thoughts, right? That's why we're on earth, right? We are, in essence, immature spirits. We are like teenagers, can't control our emotion, can't control our thoughts, go a million ways. We are here to learn to remove our blemishes, our faults. Why? Because we are, at some time in the future, very far future for me, we will be part of that creation. We'll be part of teams that may go to a planet like a pre-Earth that we decide, okay, we will help guide the evolution of animals. We may help guide the evolution of plants. We may help guide societal structures. We may guide history of intelligent humans on some sort of other planet. And now you know that we will all be part of different organizations, and we must all work together, learn together, all for the under the guidance of higher, more superior spirits than ourselves. But it's not like work where you maybe work for a boss you don't like or don't respect. The people in the spirit world that are in their positions of power are there because they have earned it and they have gone through the same things we have. And they are humble, but they are extremely competent. And that's why we're here on earth. Now, let's go now. Now we'll start talking about the future. Now, there's an interesting section in Book 2 of the Highlands of Heaven, which is part of the Beyond the Veil, on the topic of science. Again, the High Spirit Zabdal discussed the cyclical nature of science, and he communicated the following. So now we're really going to talk about how that, so what some of the future are. And I'm going to intersperse some more about the processes, but we're talking about the future. And now he's talking about science. So this is what he says. Science is history, repeats itself, but never an exact duplicate. Broad principles govern from time to time the search for knowledge and are succeeded by others in their turn, which having served then also fall behind into a secondary place in order that other principles may receive the more concentrated, undivided attention of the race. But from time to time, as ages go by, these principles return again, not in the same order of sequence, to receive the attention of a new race. And so the march of human progress goes on. So that sounds like we've been here before. That sounds like there's been other races on Earth and they've learned things and now we're rediscovering them. Well, you would be correct. So while history is thought of repeating due to the consistency of human nature, our greed, our thirst for domination, our hubris, science is generally seen as a line, right? A line that starts out on an upward slope. And from the first discovery of fire, then in the Renaissance begins to increase in altitude, right? We went through thousands of years like this with fire, maybe the wheel. Not every place had the wheel. And then like in the 17th century, we started going up like that. Interesting, isn't it? But the Spirit Zabdal tells Reverend Juval, and this is what he said: items of discovery are also lost and found anew, often in other than their original guise, and some with strange features added, and for others, old features lacking. So, yes, there could be civilizations existing. So, when one thinks back on the knowledge lost during the Dark Ages, Zabdal's thesis that science flows in a cycle has some strong evidence supporting within our own current human understanding of where we've been, right? Because we've all been told since elementary school, there's primitive humans, Neanderthal man, the Cro-Magnon man, and they got fire, started planting, right? Like this. But if one looks at the world where India and China, for instance, didn't experience a great social disintegration, scientific discoveries didn't regress. But this isn't what Zabdal meant at all. To the modern science means at the base, following scientific methods, facts must be presented, experience must be reproducible before any theory can be accepted as a fact. In essence, the approach to science inspired by Aristotle and brought further along by the efforts of Roger Bacon, science today is only what can be proved and is purposely devoid of any spiritual essence. Now, but Zabdal has a different point of view of what we mean as science. This is what he says. There was a time when science did not mean what it means to men today, when there was a soul in science, and the outer manifestation of matter was of secondary interest. Thus it was with alchemy, astrology, and even engineering. It was known in those days that the world was ruled from many spheres, administered by countless hosts of servants, meaning the spirits that are helping, acting freely of their own will, but within certain straight limits laid down by those of greater power and higher authority. And men in those days studied to find out the different grades and degrees of those spiritual workers, and the manner of the service in the different departments of nature and of human life, and the amount of power exercised by each several class. And they found out a considerable number of facts and classified them. But as much as these facts, laws, and regulations, conditions were not of the earth sphere, but of the spiritual, they were fain to express them in a language apart from that of common use. What is he saying? Zabdal speaks about the science of spiritual exploration. This is exactly what Allan Kardec wanted to, it was Spiritism. Spiritism is a science, religion, philosophy, and science working together. That's what he wants to bring back. So the attempt by men and women to decipher the processes of the spirit world and how we on earth are affected by the spirit realm. In the book On the Way to the Light by the Spirit Emmanuel, psychographed by Chico Xavier, again, On the Way to Light, I recommend everybody to read that. It's just a great book. Emmanuel, when he lays out the history of the world and how it is guided by the spirit realm, talks about ancient science. So again, this is how the books that I've done, right? The future and everything, and from the Reverend G. Bowen is actually adding to the other books by Emmanuel and Henri Louise and other authors that Chico Xavier psychographed. This is what he said. The psychic scientists today were familiar to the mage priests of the temples, the fate of the dead, and in communicating with them, in addition to the plurality of existences and worlds, were for them problems that have been solved and understood. A study of their pictorial arts is evidence for the truth of our statements. Now he's talking about Egypt here, ancient Egypt. In a large number of frescoes, earthly humans are portrayed accompanied by their spirit double. Their papyri tell us of their advanced knowledge in this area, and through them, modern Egyptologists have recognized the fact that initiates knew about the pre-existent spirit body that organizes the world of things and form. Their knowledge regarding the sun's energies with respect to human magnetism was far superior to that of today. Such knowledge gave rise to the procedures for mummification, whose formulas were lost in the indifference and apprehensiveness of other cultures. Their kings maintained the highest degree of initiation, and they held all the spiritual powers and all the sacred knowledge in their hands. This is why discarnation triggered the magical concentration of all wills in the sense of surrounding their tomb with veneration and utmost respect. This love did not only manifest in the solemn act of mummification. The ambient of the tombs was also signified by a strange magnetism. So hence, the quest for learning was the broader pictures of the meaning of life. Once the meaning was discovered, and then the entire complex process of how our lives are organized and directed were explored. The ancients wished to understand everything they could about the spiritual realm, for they realized that our physical time on earth was but temporary, and all of us would return to where we belong. The Druids called it the other world. Zabdal tells us that the fairy tales of Europe and of the stories of magical wonderment coming out of the East were derivatives of knowledge lost from ancient sources. That knowledge from eons ago about the spirit realm has metamorphosed from exact definitions and descriptions into mythical stories and fairy tales. Zabdal presents us with an example of the lost science. This is what he says. There is a story of Jack and the Beanstalk. In the first place, look at the name. Jack is the colloquial for John, and the original John was he who wrote the book of Revelation. The beanstalk is an adaptation of Jacob's ladder by which the upper or spiritual spheres were reached. Those spheres once attained are found to be real countries and regions with natural scenery, houses, and treasures. If you've been listening to my talks, you'll know that's all true. Let me carry on with the quote. But these are sometimes held by guardians, not altogether in amity with the human race, who, nevertheless, by boldness and skill of mind, are able, with natural quickness of character, to prevent those guardians from regaining possession of those treasures of wisdom and depriving the human race of the right won by the conquest of a bolder sort. Now, this is picturesque. This is quoting from Zedbal, and is made to assume a quaint and even ludicrous guise by reason of its being handed down from age to age by those who did not understand its deeper import. Had they done so, most certainly they had not nicknamed the original as Jack. But as customary attire of dress will show you, this came about in an age when things holy and spiritual were had in light, esteemed by the reason of the inability of men to realize the actual presence of spiritual beings among them. So they also garbed a demon and gave him spiked ears and a tail, and for a similar reason, that his actuality to them was mythical. The personality they made of him was mythical indeed. What's he telling us? It's telling us that the spiritual teaching of the Druids were handed down from generation to generation, and for each cycle, slight transformations were made. Then when the Romans had successfully eradicated the Druids, they fought hard with the Druids, just like they fought hard with Christianity. Notice that the Romans, just a quick tangent here, Romans accepted gods from all over the place, accepted religions all over the place. Why did they want to destroy the Druids? And why did they want to destroy the Christians? They wanted to destroy the Druids and the Christians because of really one of the main reasons is the belief in the immortality of the soul and reincarnation. The belief that you could be a Roman senator and come back the next time as a slave. The belief that there are more important things than any governing organization on earth. The Romans would accept any religion as long as you believe that what the Romans told you was in concert from what those other gods told you. The moment you stepped above that and you thought that you were just as good as anyone else, even though you were a slave, they didn't like that. So, what is this telling us? That the Supreme Intelligence and the governor of our planet, God and Jesus, has seen worlds and species like ours before. They know the phases humankind must travel through. There are other worlds where people are evolving. There's other worlds that are inferior to Earth, or other worlds superior to Earth. All this stuff has been done. It's like going through seventh grade, and everyone goes, "Yeah, the seventh graders will teach them this, and we'll teach them that. Oh, they'll probably screw that up, but it's okay. Even though they screw it up, they'll learn something from it, right?" This is exactly how we're looked at from the spirit world. Phases that humankind must travel through to reach the goal to progress from a plan of atonement, right, where we are now, right, where we have to learn through trials and tribulation what we did wrong before to change our attitude, to a plan of regeneration from a planet where immature souls must pay for past wrongs and learn to live as civilized humans to a world devoid of hate, envy, and wars between nations. And then I also want to say, as I think someone said, I think Matthew, when he talked about civilization, also in the book, On the Way to Light, they talk about Lemura and Atlantis. They say even in Atlantis, also Emmanuel has talked about this On the Way to Light, is that in some things, they even had like radio waves. In some things, Atlantis was, well, probably not, maybe not now, but it was very close to us, like in the 1950s or so, as far as scientific improvement. And that the spirit world says, okay, well, you're getting very technically advanced, but spiritually, you're still pretty primitive. We're going to bring you down a notch. This is how we are being led, right? Spiritism tells us, Lemuria, Atlantis, the Atlantis Society. You know, if you read Edgar Cayce, the things he says is amazing. Edgar Cayce was originally a Christian, didn't believe in reincarnation. Then when he started getting all this information, he says, okay, yeah, I believe in reincarnation, right? Even he was something before, I think, in Atlantis, and then I think he came back something in Egypt too, if I remember what I read from him. So we've been through this before. Some of us could have been Atlanteans, and, you know, we probably, you know, did our best to accumulate materialism, but we didn't do our best to be spiritual. So that's what we need to work on now, right? So To reach that goal, right, to be a planet of regeneration from a planet where immature souls must pay for past wrongs. Oh, great. Yeah, Matthew, okay, yes, do that. It should be up there later tonight or tomorrow. Matthew says he's going to link another video on the ancient civilizations. Okay, so to reach that goal, to be a planet, right, of regeneration, one of the aspects is the attainment of the Spiritist doctrine. Now, remember, Spiritism is a doctrine, it's not a religion. What they say in the future is that religions will take the doctrine and then say, okay, yes, yeah, although like Buddhism already says there's reincarnation. But Spiritism has three aspects that work together to provide the scaffolding, which encompasses the ever-growing pool of knowledge. First is philosophy. The Spirit books, which is this book right here, laid down the foundation for the relationship between the spirit and the physical world, the eternal questions of our creation. And our creator, our destiny, and our soul are all covered within Spiritism. Second is science. This is the area which certainly would have the most doubters, rightly so, for nothing has been proven today. Modern society accepts people's beliefs in God, but only as a nod to those that need it. This is beginning to be revealed, though. If the internet, this is both good and bad, but if you read all the stories about NDEs, right, and what people see, you cannot discount a lot of this. In fact, I've read a book, or wrote a book, I should say, The Spirit World Talks to Us, 12 accounts from near death and other experiences. And I went through 12 accounts and took their interpretation of the facts of what happened to them and said, okay, this is what Spiritism tells us, that this is the reasoning behind it, and this is how this process worked. For instance, you saw your Uncle Bob. Uncle Bob looked normal, but then this angel came down. You couldn't even make it out. Well, I said, this is why the angel was bright. This is why Uncle Bob came. This is why he came so fast. I mean, it's all explained by Spiritism. So, and also they tell us eventually science will expose all this. It will expose the spirit world. The third leg of the stool is religion. To be clear, again, I'll say it again, Spiritism does not consider itself to be a religion. Spiritism is a doctrine, a way of life. There are no rites, no churches or temples, and no one who would function as a priest. There is a moral code, a set of divine laws that is implanted in each of us so we may instinctively sense the right path. Now, what we're saying, Spiritism is saying, this is the laws you must follow. No, what Spiritism is saying is that you need to listen to your conscience. We are all born with a conscience. This is why people feel stress. This is why when you're doing wrong things, and I've been there too. So when you're doing things you know is wrong, now, what do most of us do when we're teenager and young adults, even adults, right? We spend most of our time rationalizing away why we can do something, even though we kind of know we shouldn't, right? This is what Spiritism is trying to tell us: is listen to this inside you. God has put in each one of us. This is our connection, right? There's two connections in the past lives: our conscience and our instincts. Those are all connected because our conscience, as we go through life after life, it's like a library, right? We because there's nothing black or white. There's always shades of gray. And we start learning, okay, this is how we should interpret this situation and try to do the right thing. Not always, right? We're learning. Don't beat yourself up about it. And therefore, our desire for material goods often masks our good intentions. We do realize what we should or should not have done, and this is precisely the basis for a struggle on earth. I tell you, once we are able to follow the road of love, charity, and selflessness, we shall leave this period of our education and begin the next. Thus, the culture of materialism, which denies all but we can see and touch and possess, is due to be modified over time. Modern science, an example of the absolute materialistic purity demanded by our times, need to balance physical experiments with spiritual. And Zadal tells us what will occur. This is what he says. This is a quote. Thus, in other guise outwardly, but inwardly more akin, the broad principles which govern the Egyptian astrologers and the wisdom which Moses learned. I'm going to stop here for a second. Moses was a medium extraordinary. That's what Emmanuel said On the Way to Light. He was a medium that was just so powerful. It was amazing. And the wisdom of Moses, I'll go back to the quote, which Moses learned and used to such effect is returning today to lift men up a little higher and to put a meaning into that dead materialism of the past, which handling things produced of the energizing of life, shells, bones, and fossil stones, denied the author of life his place in life's grand arena. It spoke of the orderly working of natural law and denied the one source of all order and all working. It spoke of beauty and forgot that beauty is not unless the spirit of man perceives it, and that spirit is because he who is spirit is forever. So what did he tell us? We see, what he says right now, we see and we study the object, right? But never acknowledge the force behind the object. We refuse to notice that nothing is created or persisted without the will of the spirituality. Yes, there are natural laws which we can interpolate, but there is a will and a meaning behind each, and we spend no effort in deciphering the background for creation. Zabdal tells us that the spirit world is not idle. They are never idle. They are pushing us towards the goal of cementing science and spirituality. This is what he says. We are watching and we are guiding as we may, and opportunity is given us. If men respond to our prompting, there's an age to come more full of light and beauty of love and life than that just passing away. And I think they will respond, for the new is better than the old. From behind us, we feel the pressing of those higher wisdom and power as we look earthward. And so we do what we are impressed is their intention and desire. So according to Zabdal, progress is being made. Now, Zabdal communicated that message that I just quoted, the Reverend G. Val on Friday, November 12th, 1913, although those books weren't published in the 1920s. The same message was delivered to Chico Xavier by the spirit author Andre Luis in the book In the Realms of Mediumship, published in 1955. So, and that was explaining about how we are uniquely tagged, and that someday scientists working on expanding our knowledge are fulfilling the plan to discover other planes, dimensions, and universes. In essence, and that was in the beginning. The manual actually wrote the preface for the Realms of Mediumship, telling us that no matter what a scientist today, I'm talking about today, believes as regard to a higher power, he or she is working toward the day when the existence of the spirit world can't be doubted, which the Spirits books by Allan Kardec tells us will occur one day. Our world is on a pre-planned flight path. It may take longer than planned due to our obstinacy, but we shall arrive at the destination. Science and spirituality will be coupled along with philosophy, and out of that shall emerge a better world, a world where the terrors and uncertainties of the past are left far behind. The day will come. So as you can see, we've had ancient civilizations, we've had creations and destruction. We are just on one phase of that. We are just on one phase. Now, what Spiritism tells us and what Chico Xavier has told us and revealed to us is that we are planned to become a planet of regeneration. Now, we were close, from what Chico Xavier said, that we were close to being brought down completely. And in fact, what he said in 1969, these group of community pure spirits met and said, oh, well, what happened in 1969? Men went to the moon. They said, look, technologically, the men went to the moon. They got nuclear weapons. They're threatening each other. There's massive wars. Let's do it just like what we did to Lemura and Atlantis. Let's bring them down again. And what they said, it was Christ intervened, said, no, let's give them 50 years. And if there's no nuclear war in 50 years, then we'll keep going on this path. Well, 50 years is up in July 2019, which is 11 months from now. So we shall see if what it was said, if we carry on beyond July 2019, then more things will happen. We will actually accelerate. In fact, I think it's already planned. I'm not too worried about it because what I've heard within from spiritist mediums and other people, that there's a lot of people reincarnating on this earth. Now, when we talked about the future, let's talk about this one more thing about the future. So if you want the future of society, human race to advance, what do? Well, you reincarnate people who will change the culture, who will change the society, who will bring new inventions to the world. So many people, and spiritually too. In fact, I've heard is that Buddha will be reincarnated. Socrates will come back. very, these are people that were like 400 years before Christ came and, and kind of highlighted and foreshadowed the coming of Jesus. So these people will come, and other scientists will come and give us new inventions that we shall use. Also, what Chico said, that aliens will come. Actually, I believe they've been here, but they will reveal themselves and help us out. But what will happen is our science will advance, but then also it will say our spirituality will advance. And people with NDEs have seen the same thing. In fact, I know this while I was at this talk, this one lady who said she was told that there was a scientist, and I believe he had like an Eastern European name, but he was in France. He actually, proved the existence of a spirit world. That will happen in the future. That's what she was told. Who knows? All these things are very interesting to see and see if they work out. But what I wanted to do in this talk is really talk about the future, what it means, because to understand, when you hear people talk about this is going to happen in the future, all these talks I'm telling you is the fact is that you have to look how we got here, and to look how we got here, this will help you know how we're going to get there. Now, when a medium tells you, "Oh, we're going to have World War III in 2024," and that person, and you read that person did that 20 years ago, that may have been one of the plans by the spirit. That medium may not have just said that for, just to be famous or something, or most of, probably not. That could have been one of the plans by the spirit world at that point in time. But remember, this is dynamic. As they see us, it's just like a teacher with students. As students are learning, they will bring in new lessons, new ideas how to teach them, right? And they will guide the class. We are being guided by the spirit realm. We are being guided to the future. Now, the main target is always there, a plan of regeneration, right? We're not going to have wars between nations. We're in the spirits who are too primitive, which I mean is when I say by primitive, people who commit crimes, people who are completely materialistic, don't believe that, want to accumulate a lot of money, not caring how they do it, right? It could be nefarious, or it could be, where they create products that are actually harmful and they don't care, or, very low quality. People like that will not be on the planet of regeneration. They will go to another planet of atonement, or maybe some other level where they will be given the chance to keep learning and someday belong on the planet of regeneration. No one is ever left behind forever. There's no hell. There's bad places, but you're only there for a period of time until your attitude and your character becomes better, right? So you learn that love is really what's important, not material existence. So I think we come to the end. I just want to thank everybody. It's been a wonderful night of talking. I will upload this onto the YouTube channel. Please share this video with other Facebook pages. And then you can go to my YouTube channel. Please subscribe. And also I have on BitChute, I upload the same thing up to BitChute too, to make sure it's there. Always have an alternative since YouTube seems to be censoring more and more people. I believe in free speech. I may not agree with you, but even the spirit world tells us we need free speech. We need to listen to everything, even if it's slightly ignorant or wrong. It's all good. We need to learn to, whatever's told us why we're here. We're learning to filter that through our conscience, decide if it's good or bad, if it's good for other people, good for ourselves. And that is how we learn to become better spirits, not to be guided and stopped from hearing other things, right? We are here to be polite to other people, be helpful to other people, and not to forcibly make people believe what we believe. That's very important. Okay, I want to thank everyone. It's been a wonderful night. Remember, every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, all the time zones in between and around the world, we will have this Facebook live streaming on Kardec Radio. And also, I want to tell you is that I'll put links below when I do my YouTube channel. You can also find them on my blog, nwspiritism.com, How We Are Guided by Spirits, Book 3. That's what I'm talking about right now. I've gone through the first 2 books. And here's Book 1, Heaven and Below, Book 1 of Spiritism. I would get all 3 of them. I think they will tell you a lot. And they will actually, if you've read Chico Xavier and those type of books, you will actually learn more things on top of that. there's nothing more interesting than reading books about spiritism and books about the spirit world. It just kind of gives you your whole place. So anyway, but remember, again, this is really the head. You should, if you're interested in spiritism, that's really one of the first books you should read. And you can get this and his other books all on PDF. So you can just look up Allan Kardec and then PDF on DuckDuckGo or whatever, and they'll come up. That's how I started. Yeah, I found them on PDF. So again, please, and if you want to, on my site nwspiritism.com, I have a link to like meetings, and it says that other places, whatever city you're in, you can find spiritist centers near you. So there's a lot of information out there. It's what Spiritism does. What we're told in Spiritism is we're not here to sit on the street corners and say, repent or you're going to be doomed. No, we just lay information out for you. Say, okay, here's information that we've heard from spirits. This is what we believe. This is information for you. If you want to pick it up, fine. If not, don't worry. You're going to learn this eventually. So anyway, I want to say everyone good night and God bless everyone. Thank you so much.